So hi everyone. Really good to see everybody. This evening we're going to be talking about the mind-body connection. So it's the second in our Beyond the Mind series. The first one we had was about depression. This is about the mind-body connection. And this topic actually was inspired by something that came up in our last meeting. We were talking about some of the challenges that people can experience when there is this sense of separation or this illusion of separation or disconnection, and that can be that we feel that we're not the body, or the body is separate from the mind, or there's a sort of a split. And what can sometimes happen is it can cause, all sorts of challenges. It might lead to issues with food. Sometimes I work with a lot of people who experience anorexia and bulimia, which is a sort of controlling of the body. It's that managing how you feel through your diet and through your food. And a lot of the time, people identify with the mind. There's an idea that we are our thoughts, and the body. Is it separate? Is it not separate? Because the thoughts are in the mind, which is in the brain. The brain is in the body. So I would have an idea that there are certain things we can take. Certain supplements, vitamins, for example, things like turmeric, maybe ginger. That there are things that can kind of have an effect on the mind, possibly because the brain is an organ and the brain is part of the body. So I think this sort of mind body connection, what can we physically do to care for ourselves that might influence the mind? And also, a lot of people understand things like non-duality. They understand wellness. They understand what they ought to be doing on a conceptual level. And I watched that video, Rowena, you sent to me this week, which was that I think she's a doctor or somebody talking about the embodied enlightenment, she called it, how there can be that you understand things on a conceptual level, and yet your behavior. And actually, Sandra's just joined, so this is good timing. We were talking about this today as well. That sense of, sometimes people can sort of talk the talk, and yet you see them in their personal lives and they're having fights with their spouse. They're maybe being creating conflict. So that there's a sense that this can be understood, what we're talking about, but actually that sense of feeling it in the body, that sense of calm. Sometimes there's a sense of dis-ease perhaps that's felt physically. I think, talking about the body as part of this in non-duality can be missed because it can be so conceptual and so intellectual. And yet, so this is a very grounding conversation. Hopefully, this is about really making it real. And I don't know where it's going to go. That was just what inspired it, that chat we had last time. So I'm really interested to hear what everyone has to say. If people will be kind enough to put their hands up, that'll be brilliant. And yeah, we'll go for about an hour and a half. And Tony, thank you.
Oh yeah, I just had a thought just popped into my mind. Is this also about self-image?
Yeah, I think so. The sort of idea of, what you body image, what you look like. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, because I think there's no doubt that self-image is something that social media has been very responsible in sort of reinforcing that self-image. Because when anybody looks at when someone portrays themselves in social media and Facebook, they're always showing their sort of best face. And when you look at Facebook profiles, you always think, oh, this is just the perfect person. It's just the perfect, they're having this perfect life. And social media doesn't show the bad bits. It shows you at your best. And then that creates this problem in terms of people feeling inadequate in terms of their own image. Social media has a lot to answer for in that way. So that was just a kind of side point, really, in terms of body image.
And I think actually Sandra and I were saying this earlier today, you sometimes see people on social media, the way they type, the words they use, you might have a very different idea of them from what they type versus what they actually are. And I think you don't really know someone until you experience their energy. I mean, people aren't their looks, they're not their age, they're not what they type. There's something sort of deeper, and I think we all know that because we're all here and we're all connecting on that level. So I think the appearances can sometimes be incredibly deceptive. So yeah, absolutely, social media is a big culprit for that.
Hmm.
Rowena.
Yeah, so the body thing is a big thing for me. Um, and the more I sort of I use it in a way as a type of meditation practice, I suppose, which has been going on. I started off with something called the realization process, which was Buddhist based in the States. And um, I realized that after sharing my experience, it was like very, very heady, very light, it's like all the energy just goes up. It isn't, for my case, to do with self-image. It's to do with a type of vacating the body, because simply it's learned to vacate. There was something that caused from very, very early childhood that everything had to either disappear into sort of like fantasy land or otherwise just, and that left a sense of all these holes of you can feel the body from the outside, but you can't be present with consciousness on the inside, because you can't find the areas on the inside of you. Like, I could say, can you feel and bring your mind into your chin? And you sit and you feel your chin, and then you feel, can I bring my center of consciousness just to the chin? And so that, and it can take a little while, and then you can feel, oh, there's an experience of being embodied in the chin, and it actually goes everywhere. And in my experiences of sort of checking, am I embodied here and there, I found that there have been corresponding places which, when the frozen places have been, as it were, melted because presence has brought there, there are huge sort of, let's call it fear reactions, but in the body that ricochet everywhere. And when there's more embodiment, anxiety levels, and there's a sense of, oh, I am a person, I do exist, and I have there's a substantiality, because there's a connection with presence being in the body rather than hovering up around the head. And I think when you were describing the person you were working with, Claire, and you brought her to be into the body, then all of a sudden felt connected with herself. And so it really is. And I mean, I like studying. I study quite a in the past, less so now, but things like the Enneagram, which I've got a lot of, and A.H. Almas's work on the diamond. I don't know if anyone knows about the diamond approach. And he talks about there are three types. You're either a body type or you're an emotional type. The body type says no, it's confrontational. The emotional type is more going out and codependent type. And we are all of them. But then there's the fear type, which is the mental type, which vacates the body. And some more than others. You live in a much more sort of withdrawn. And he describes all these holes. He calls them voids or holes. And so that's my approach of finding it completely fascinating that if I spend some time with my nose, then I can feel coming into my chest, or if I'm doing, and then something happens, like now I'm feeling like I'm pretty disembodied. But the other thing is, I used to feel very anxious about that, because it was like, well, I feel like I'm sort of like a floating type of, wisp. very disconnected, and everything is rather what's the word? When you sort of lose, yeah, when you just lose connection with everything.
Dissociation.
Yeah, dissociation, but also it's just, there is nothing. There is no one, there is nothing. And then when the embodiment comes, there's this deeply felt, palpable, and it's not physical. It can't be located in the body, but it's the field, but it permeates transparently through the body of presence with different can be different attributes. All of a sudden, there's a feeling of strength, there's substantiality, or a field of love, and whatever, which isn't really possible or so easy to collect to the when there's disembodiment. So that's the where I'm sort of approaching from that.
I had a lot coming up. I saw Sander had his hand up, so I don't know if you wanted to share something first, Sander.
Well, when you say I feel disembodied, right? You're saying now I feel disembodied. So what is that more than an innocent labeling of a certain so-called happening of
You're
embodiment?
you're absolutely right. It is nothing more than that. And but
With no disrespect, this is not disrespectful to whatever seems to be happening there when it comes to embodiment or disembodiment. But if we just look at it, what is it more than just labeling of a certain so-called innocent happening to arise?
absolutely right. It's totally right. And so we can be talking, this is the problem. We can be talking from two places, you know, and it's completely true. And also, and there's nothing wrong with having that
No,
feeling
there's
either.
absolutely nothing. No,
No, there's nothing wrong.
there's nothing wrong with
Nothing wrong.
whatsoever. No.
No, there's nothing wrong at all. And yet, the conversation, there in the as a personality functioning in the relative world, the experience is quite different of feeling, that where that oh yes, there's a sort of presence connecting, not necessarily, and it sort of feels, oh yes, there is something substantial here that can stand itself, that can stand against the world, that it doesn't have to sort of cringe and hide, and it can just be here and let everything happen very coolly, without needing to do anything, to push, to pull, to go towards. And so the experience is just more juicy, more
Yes.
alive. But there's
But
nothing wrong with
no.
either.
But isn't it already just simply happening, including the claim that it is or the feeling that it's not?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And Sander's very good, Rowena. Hopefully he'll come back again and you'll have more interactions with him. He's very good at sort of getting to if there's anything conceptual, it's that real grounding energy of even this it's an idea, right? But it's I know you know that already. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an experience where there is an identification. I don't like this. I don't like this. Yeah, and it's seen. I mean, it is seen, and it's like, wow, that's happening again, and it's like, oh well, that's okay. It is okay, but it's also we're talking about it. So,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Michael.
Over 50 years of searching, I tried every method, every path I could find. Enneagram, I'm a 3. I'm a Pisces. I tried out-of-body experiences and lucid dreaming. Uh, I tried the power walk of Don Juan and not too successfully. I tried everything. I assumed there was a method. I think there's a general assumption that there's a method or technique to attain what we imagine to be peace of mind. Today, I see that as a great illusion. It's stacking shadows. It's riding on smoke. It's trying to manipulate an entity that doesn't actually exist. It's trying to improve the condition of an imaginary persona. What is mind? We assume mind is a thing, but it's not. It's just a label. It has no purchase. There's nowhere to grab the mind. It doesn't exist. Any attempt to improve the self will come up empty because there's no such thing. Somehow that whole schematic can collapse in on itself. I don't know what causes that. No one does. But when and if it happens, the search is over. There's nothing to improve. It isn't that we're perfect. It's that we don't exist at all. There's nothing to improve.
Let someone else speak. I see Paul and Sandy, you guys have got your hands up.
I'm over.
Sorry, Michael, you were
Let Paul go first.
Michael,
I was
you want to
done.
continue? Oh, okay. I guess this is apparently my desire to try to figure out how to do it right. Um, I saw a quote earlier, and this is sort of, I guess, tied in, and it was attributed to the Oracle, and the quote is, "Because you didn't come here to make the choice, you've already made it. You're here to try to understand why you made it." And I wonder if that's also part of the desire to understand one's motivation. For example, is that all wanting to do it better or to do it right? I mean, I guess it's still all part of the play. It's still all part of the dream. But Michael, like you just said, any attempt to sort of improve the self. So, I mean, I guess one can still understand one's motivation, but still understand that it's all part of the play. Or maybe I'm,
Can you understand even that? Is understanding a misconception? Do we understand anything, or can anything be understood when there are no things? Things exist only in the naming of them.
yeah.
We mistake description for understanding. We can describe what happens with electricity and magnetism and gravity. We can measure them, but we don't know what they are. We have no idea what light is or water. We don't know. There's great peace in unknowing, or knowing that nothing can be known, and even that slips away. Well, Sander had his hand up. I'm sorry, Sander.
Well, let me see. I have to agree with you, Michael, when you say there are no things. There's not a thing called mind. There just simply isn't. And any so-called way to control it is just more mind-based illusions or dreams. There isn't a thing which you can control, like a separated mind as an object in time and space and a you beside it, which includes this already. It's all mind in a way. There's nothing but mind.
Yeah, I was just going to say that when Michael said that mind doesn't exist, I mean, that statement was coming from mind, right? I mean, you do realize that that was
Oh yeah.
an attempt to have one part of the mind comment on another part of the mind and say it doesn't exist. So that's just mind also.
You're suggesting,
Yeah. It exists and it doesn't exist. I mean, it exists as the idea or the belief or the thought that it exists, or the opposite.
It was reminds me of this idea of one part of the mind kind of stepping back and somehow having this objectivity to talk about another part of the mind that either doesn't exist or needs fixing or whatever. It reminds me of what Ramana said about how you can't do that because it would be like a thief pretending to be a policeman in order to catch the thief.
I'm really curious to hear what Michael has to say because you do this a lot with him, Tony, and I want to give him the opportunity to
I'm not
respond.
doing anything with anybody. I'm just commenting on what was said. The idea that the mind can somehow compartmentalize itself and comment on another part of the mind. That's just
Well,
the
maybe you
mind doing what
misunderstood
it
what
does,
Michael
right?
said. I don't know, Michael, if you want to respond.
yes, in order for the mind to see itself, it would have to be two, one seer and one seen. I think that is the assumption that creates the fundamental misunderstanding that there is such a thing as mind. If it has a name, it's imaginary. There's no such thing as a mountain. And that has a physical counterpart. And we assume that mind is a thing that can somehow see itself or alter itself or manipulate itself. But that can't happen. Nothing can see itself, even if they were real. There'd have to be two minds, one that could determine what was wrong with itself and one that would know how to fix it. That's that's the wrestling that the brain does. It has this internal struggle trying to figure out what's going on with its labeled pseudo-reality. It's living in a dream. The brain is living in its own objectified dream. It's stacking shadows. There's nothing substantial in a dream. Nothing exists. We can't help ourselves. We can't find a path out of our condition. We don't have a condition. We're illusory. We can never know who or what we are, primarily because we aren't. Sylvain, you had your hand up.
Yes, I think that actually a mind can see a mind, and today it's called artificial intelligence. The only way that actually a machine sounds like a mind is because a human being has observed the mind and reproduced it in part, from a machine. So it couldn't have been created unless we could observe it in the first place. And when we look into how AI works, I think it's very interesting because, as I say, mankind has never invented anything which they didn't already have. So it's only a development of something we can observe. Well, AI fundamentally works on word associations. It will actually, if you ask a question, it doesn't think, of course, it hasn't got a mind in that way, but it will consider the words you've used and find any other words which can be most likely associated with the words you've used. And out of that, it will build a response to your question.
Mhm.
So all I wanted to say is actually this artificial intelligence is in effect a mind. Now, for that reason, I say we can observe a mind.
AI is, I just wrote something. I'm sorry, Raja. I just wrote something on AI. AI, like you said, works on word association as we do, as the brain
Yes.
does. That's not mine. That's a description of an imagined process. It's not mind itself. It's and AI is also confined to objectification. It sees the world that it elaborates on the world that that the brains, our objectifying brains have created, it's confined to the objectified perspective.
But what's wrong with the objectified perspective? It still exists.
It does, but it creates the illusion of separation and the existential angst that is associated with that. We're not separated. We don't exist.
I mean, I do find that actually, if we look at, as something which we can agree, like history, for example, or the history of progress, if there is such a thing, mankind has improved its condition. I'm not saying it's used well today, but actually, if you look at the medicine and what's happened with medical research, well, we've done a lot of progress, and that only comes from the mind.
There is this great river of interaction that we are all pulled along with that we'll never see or understand. I try to isolate variables or in, individual proponents of that. What causes anything? There's no cause and effect. We 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 think we have a grasp of reality, but we don't. There's no such thing as reality. A bat's reality is totally different than ours, and ants is different than the bats. There's no such thing as reality. There isn't even just this. Just this is a summation of the objectified perspective, but that's an illusion also. We are living an illusion, and we're trying from the inside to find a way to understand it, and there's nothing to understand.
Well,
There's no
illusion in that case is reality.
boy, is illusion reality?
You can't disappear, I'm afraid. So you're here right now.
It depends on definition, and everyone has a unique dictionary. So we're living in different worlds. We have a totally different world. You are bilingual, so you live in two worlds, a language. You live in fundamentally different worlds.
But
I,
say, go ahead.
I,
Sorry.
my world is totally. I'm alone in my world. Each brain, objectifying brain, creates a world unto itself. We are ultimately alone, and that causes great existential angst and fear. We want a way out of that. We can't find it. The whole system can't collapse. I think it's happened to Sander. I think his structural schematic fell apart, and here he's an empty man wandering through the forest, enjoying life, at peace with his dogs.
Razia, you've had your hand up for some time.
Okay, thanks. I like what Michael said, and I mean everyone else for that matter. We don't know much. We are assuming a lot. Some of it is obviously our opinions of what life is.
Mm.
Yeah, some of it probably experiential, but if there's no experiencer, then where is it coming from? I mean, there's no distance between me and what is. So whatever is being said is obviously from what is, you know? I mean, I'm looking at it that way. I don't know. What Michael said was like applying lipstick on a mirror, hoping that you would look better. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, because that is what is appearing to be. That's that we have no agency. That the illusion, there's an illusion of a me doing everything, you know? And yet, when you kind of like experience this, I mean, there's no other thing to say but experience. You realize that you're not the doer, that everything is happening without a you in it, you know? So, yeah, then that's another thing. Now, how can I change? How am I going to improve myself? But improving myself is happening. I mean, it's not something that I can say it does not happen, seemingly happen, in the dream. It's happening. That there is a kind of improvement. Like Razia was completely didn't know anything about whatever, like spirituality. I don't even know what to call it. And now she seemingly knows what she's talking about. So she has improved, in a way. And ultimately, I think the question is, can matter be enlightened? Can matter be enlightened? That's the story. It's the story of enlightenment, a seeming individual being enlightened. Now, or is that just the story, appearance of what is happening? So yeah, I'm quite. I don't have anything else to add to that.
Thanks, Razia, for bringing it back to the topic. I think this is exactly it. It's this sense of being in the body. Can matter be enlightened? The physical body. We're talking a lot about the mind here, but we do appear to exist. I agree with Sylvan. There's a real sense of separation, which and what Rowena was saying as well about the chin, when you go into the energetic body, there is a sense of something, there is a sense of grounding, and maybe there are no words for it, except what exactly is the chin? What exactly is this? Maybe matter is something, even scientists can't exactly point to what matter is. And you might say, oh, what's the matter? What is that? And I think it does matter. It is important because this is where the source of pain is. This is where the source of suffering is. So to sort of address it directly is wonderful. And Razi, you do that so well. I like how you're not a non-dualist. You might say that you understand it a lot more than you did, but I would still say you're incredibly real. So thank you for bringing that. And Tony, I appreciate that I sort of cut you off, but I just wanted to interject that.
Okay. No, it's okay. Yeah, actually, it just occurs to me we've strayed a little bit from the subject, haven't we? The topic of body. But I just wanted a couple of things. First of all, to Sylvain, you said if there's something we can agree on, like history, and I immediately thought, well, we can't agree on history because if you put 10 historians in a room, they'll all disagree on their interpretation of history. But anyway, I wanted to come back to Michael because it's all about definitions. Michael said that himself, definitions. So when Michael says that you don't exist or nothing exists, I'll actually go along with that, provided that we can agree on a definition. And what I would say is, yes, that's true. Objects don't exist because they're impermanent, because they appear and disappear. But at the same time, that doesn't mean they're not there. It's just they're neither real nor unreal. So with that definition, I would agree with the statement that things don't exist. But that was really the only point I wanted to make. But anyway, but on the question of the body, yeah, sometimes the body can feel very good if you if you go for a long walk and you work up a sweat and you've had some good exercise, then the body feeling can be very, very good. But at other times, of course, the body, if it's in pain, that's definitely unwanted, and the body can feel very bad. But the body is also an instrument, can be an instrument. So, Rowena, I think you were talking about that. You were using the body as an instrument in meditation, and I think that's very valid. And in deep meditation, one tends to lose awareness of the body. Having used it as a vehicle to start with, then the awareness of the body tends to disappear. You may have found that in your practice.
Sander, I think you had your hand up before Tony started speaking. You're on mute.
Yes, and then sometimes, there's something which comes up and then it's totally gone. Where is it? It's arising and it's gone. So I would say things exist only in the naming of them, which is already not a thing. So claiming there to be things, or suggesting or feeling that there are things itself is already not a thing. There are just simply no things. Besides the idea or the belief that there is a thing, or the opposite.
Mm.
There's just simply nothing more to say to it. And this is not about one or the other. I mean the belief that there are things, real things, and that they feel for you real and existential. That's already not a thing.
The end of our
So
conversation
so
then.
I would say, do things exist? Yes, they exist in the naming of them, but they don't exist at the same time.
Well,
Mm.
Tony has a path for this, Sander. Tony has a path.
I love Tony.
Oh yeah, but I agree totally with what Sandra just said. At the same time that I agree that there can be a path. That both statements would be true, actually. Just as saying that there is a doer and there is a non-doer, both statements are true at the same time.
Let me, if I'm allowed. So, there's no path to this. There's no path to the idea or the feeling that there is a path. The idea or the feeling
Pathless.
that there is a path is already the directness of or the immediacy of whatever is. There's no path to this. There isn't even a this to begin with as a thing. But I have to agree on one level with Tony. If there is an idea to a path somewhere, then that is just simply what is. But that itself, there is no path to that belief or sense or claim. So if there's a feeling or a sensation or a belief that there is a path to somewhere, that itself is already not a path.
And if it is a path, it's certainly not an attaining. It's a revealing, because attaining suggests that you're getting something that isn't already there, something new. But there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. It's just revealing what is already there.
Well, there's
That's
nothing new
the
but the
path, the
idea.
pathless path, the pathless path.
Yes, but
Michael had his hand up. Sorry.
yeah, sorry, Michael, go ahead.
Uh, um, this creates a Gordian knot that's untieable. Something would have to exist in order not to exist. So to say that, and I agree with Sandra that nothing exists, but that's from the objectified perspective that nothing exists in the realm of imagined things that do exist. Um, there's no way out of this. There's no way to figure it out. It's like I mentioned, a Gordian knot. It's a conceptual conundrum created only in words. To say things exist and don't exist is, I guess, close to what the problem is, but it doesn't untie the knot. It says things, which is the assumption of things, don't exist. But the assumption is that there are things that don't exist. There's no way through that. The human brain is tremendously creative. It can fool itself all the time. I really believed I could get out of my body. I would travel to faraway places. I would do anything I wanted. I could fly up to the stars. I could fly through the forest at the speed of light. I could do so many things. I could do so much. It was just a brain fooling itself in its own creativity. I think meditation can be fun. The idea of losing ourselves and all the things, the brain is fooling itself. Nothing is gained. Nothing can be gained by following a path or a technique. Nothing. I think what has to happen is a complete collapse of the schematic. And again, I don't know what causes that, or mine was 50 years of exhaustion, I think. 50 years of seeking and searching and trying everything I could.
Sander.
Well, it's funny. I agree that there is no possibility to this knot to untie, because there's no way to escape this. At the same time, what we're trying to point to has already no continuity or solidity whatsoever.
Mm. Mm.
It doesn't need to be untied. It cannot be untied, and it doesn't need to be untied also. And I mean, we talk as if there is something which is which has a continuity, but whatever is happening has no continuity whatsoever. There's not a there's not a thing or no thing to be found which has a continuity. Any ground is temporary, and even that has no continuity.
Thanks, Sander. Razia.
I, yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, the point is, I mean, I'm just going to play devil's advocate, right? I mean, the thing is, with all of us agreeing, there's not going to be much discussion. Let's look at it like, firstly, let's look at the observer effect. Quantum, we go back to quantum physics. It says that if something is observed, it behaves differently than if it's not observed. Okay. But now, I mean, also like what Claire has said, that there's no proof that there is matter as such. They still haven't proven that. But they have proved that if you are looking at something, it will behave differently than when you are not looking at it. So I don't know, what does this point to? That there is some sort of a cause and effect, yeah, that's arising. So that although there is, we know that there's no separation, there's nothing separate, but there seemingly is these things that happen to interact with each other. And we know that right now I am interacting with every one of you at some level, you know? So I don't know, we seemingly don't exist and can't have an effect on each other because, I mean, you don't exist. But we seemingly have, you know. So I don't know, it just, yeah, but I mean, that could be part of what is seemingly happening, the apparentness of what is happening. And we'll always get back to that. It's seeming, it's apparent, it's whatever. But in quantum physics, they have proved that we can have an effect, that matter does have, I mean, seemingly have an effect. Right. And yeah, that's all. So I don't know.
I appreciate
But
my
your
feedback.
things too as well.
Sorry,
Something Raja said just brought some thoughts up. When the objectifying brain looks at quantum physics and it sees that observing something changes it, just the observation of it, I think that points. Quantum physics is brought into the brain through objectification also. Everything studied in quantum theory is objectified. It's turned into an object in order to integrate it into what's known or what's soon to be known. So when it sees that things at that level are changed by the observation of them, I think it points to the fluidity of objectification. There's nothing solid here. There's nowhere to get purchased. There's nowhere to crisis. There's nowhere for man to rest his weary head. It's fluidity we're dealing with. We live in a fluid dream that's unique to us. Each one of us has a unique fluid dream. I believe our only connection is language. That's if I were to talk to the people who have two languages or three, I wouldn't understand them in their native language. I wouldn't know what they were or what their world was. English is my connection to you, the English language. That's our only contact across this great imaginary canyon. In the beginning was the Word. I think that's one of the things the Bible says that's so pertinent. In our beginning was the Word. We emerged in the brain's objectified perspective, and it's fluid. It's a dream, for lack of a better word. There's nothing to which it can be compared because it is the place where all the knowledges emerge. We'll never understand it. We'll never understand who or what we are. I think floating along in this great unknowingness is the peace that passes understanding. There's always the sublime quiescent quietness inside here. In midst of everything that happens, my grandkids were at a place where I thought the tsunami would affect them, and I was worried for them. And I did what I could to find out how dangerous it was. That's part of my world. I love being alive. I love being human. I think it's the jewel of the manifested universe. Nowhere else in the universe is it aware of itself. Nowhere else can we watch a man take a dog team through a snow forest and get the feeling of the coldness on our face, the love he has for his animals. Nowhere else can I think of a man grinding coffee and enjoying it. And to stimulate me and to start doing some research, I want to grind my own coffee. Hadn't thought about it before. Thank you, Paul. Claire.
Yeah, I was going to talk about this idea of the words are what we've got to communicate. Yeah, that's not all we've got to communicate. I would say the energy we have is what we communicate with. So yes, Sylvain, obviously, if he was speaking French to me, I would still sort of understand what he was saying if he was sort of shouting at me versus if he was being gentle and sweet. You know, that there's a very different energy that comes across. People can choose how they convey what's here, and you know, to put across that in a way. It doesn't really so matter what the words are. I think we're talking quite a lot about things in this meeting, and I would say that thoughts are things. You know, thoughts might be seen as matter, perhaps. Words might be seen as things. And something else Sylvain said to me once was that actually the words I say when I talk to people, words can have a very powerful impact on the nervous system. They can have an impact on the physiology. You know, the right place, as Razi was saying as well, the right placed sentence, you know, it does have an effect. We all do affect each other. So I would say there was a reality to the words in the sense of them being things. But yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because you trace it back. Where do those words come from? They come from the energy. They come from what you might call nothing. So it is all completely interconnected. There's not sort of the matter and then the thing before the matter. It's all a sort of continuation. It's a sort of the same source, and it tends to. It's sort of like a flower from the soil. You know, you see the flower, but the soil is where it's grown, and that's the essence. You know, the quality of the soil is the beauty of the flower, perhaps. You know, the quality of what comes of it. Yet it can so often be lost in translation. So that tends to happen. It tends to get a bit confused from time to time. But I noticed that Sander and Sylvain, you both have your hands up. I don't know who was first.
I think Sanders was.
Michael, when you say in the beginning there was the word, And you probably know also, and the Word was with God, and the Word is God. So in a way, there is no creation besides language. There are no things outside of this innocent dance of language or thoughts. And language is just the externalization of thoughts, the externalizing of thoughts, painting a world, a you, among separated things. And when this is not happening, there's nothing and not even nothing. And
I love
even nothing can be objectified as something which is not. I mean, you talk always about this objectifying brain, but that's just, in a way, that's just simply how it seems to function in a way. There's no way to escape this dance of objectifying or this dance of duality, nor does you need to escape it.
I love you, Sander.
Sylvan?
Well, I mean, we're talking about communication here. Uh, apart from words, there is such thing as body language. I think the way we behave and the way we act is communication. It tells something to everybody around. Uh, I think that's a very powerful way of actually communicating and interacting with people, in fact, because by a particular reaction or action, we can influence somebody else's action. So that's the way we respond to each other. Like, for example, at the moment, we're having a discussion, so somebody's idea will suggest a response from somebody else. I think that the responses do not occur randomly. They are actually caused by what was said previously. So I think that's quite good communication. Now, as far as words is concerned, I'm French, and a lot of the words I first learned when I was little, I learned without knowing I was learning them, are imbued of French culture. The meaning of the words are very French. Now, when I learned to speak English and I began to speak English, if I say a table, I think that there is no big problem here. But if I tell you I love you, or I hate you, or you make me angry, that will be the French meaning I invest in those English words. And I might not be understood as I'm meant to be by English people, for example. And I think that's quite interesting as well. And lastly, I mean, I have to admit that sometimes I get totally lost in what I'm listening. I find it interesting. I think that yet nobody's convinced me I was totally thick, and it's because I couldn't understand a thing in life. I don't believe in invisibility. I mean, even if it's something very temporary, just a moment, I do believe we do exist and we are real. That reality might be transient, but there is a lot of things we can make which are continuous to some extent up to a point. So for me, all the things that we don't know, and I agree, there's so many things we don't know. I have no idea where we come from or how life exists or anything like that. But I know where I am now, I think, and therefore I can live with the unknown. And I don't think that my only preoccupation is to try to work out what to do now. I don't really mind what happened before me or what will happen when I die. I'm not worried about all those things. But I think for the moment, I actually have a real strong sense of existing and to be able to do something, good things and bad things. And when we talk about improvement, I won't improve me. I was made once for all, with all my skills and abilities, but I can certainly improve what I do with them. Like I will use my skill, for example, to make to be on the side of life to actually protect life rather than destroying it. So that's my choice. And I think that is something I can improve myself on, be more observant and be able to see the consequences of my actions. So for me, this is really the connection between mind and body, because in my mind, I can actually and see where the world around me, and through my body, I can act. So I've got a huge advantage, of course, to have a body because that's a fantastic instrument which can help me, navigate the path of life and to be on the right side of life rather than destroying it. And that will be enough for me now. Thank you.
Thanks, Sylvan. That was lovely. Michael.
Sylvain, I think that's a wonderful approach for a life coach. I think that people I tend to believe that people have to be stabilized in the dream before they can realize it's a dream. And there are people like yourself that can help people become stabilized. Therapy can do that. It certainly helped me. Um, Back to something Sandra was talking about, that there's no such thing as things. There's no such thing as love. Um, Here, love is experienced and seen as the warmth and light you bring into my world. And it's all about me. Every persona is a self-referential, uh, contained unit, uh, confined and defined by the illusion of self. I love you because the light that you bring into my world. That's what my love is. It's for my wife, it's for my grandchildren, it's for the people I meet. The more I know about you, the more I love you. It's because you bring more light into my life. You bring warmth and whatever that nutrient needed by human babies die unless they're picked up and hugged. Adults die unless they shrivel, unless this light is streaming in from others. Sander, I think you were next.
Yes, I want to say something to Sylvan. You say I exist, and I believe that I exist. You know, but that sense of I exist has no continuity whatsoever. And the body doesn't need the sense of I exist as a separated being to perform activities. It's just simply performing activities. It doesn't need that additional layer of it's me or it's I who exist or not.
And you see, the thing is, Sander, I do not ask myself those questions.
No, I know you don't.
That's all
But
it is, really.
of course,
I don't see the
because
point of asking things I can't find out. So I'm just dealing with the little things in front of me because that I can understand more or less, what I think I do. Where when it's actually going into the depth of what we don't know, I stop there because there's no point for me to get there.
yes, I don't, and this is not about if you exist or if you don't exist, I would say. I would just want to point out if there's a sense or a belief that you exist, then that is just simply what it is. I'm not denying your existence, nor do I acknowledge your existence either. If
That's
there
what
is,
I never understand about you, Sander, because you say one thing and the opposite. So I'm
yeah,
always
well,
not.
what can I
Like
say?
Michael, it's full of paradox.
If there
Well,
is a
I
live
don't care what
sense,
it's called. I just don't understand it.
well, I just want to point out if there is a live sense that you exist, what can I say? Then that is just simply what seems to be the case. Then I just want to point out that that sense is just innocently arising and going. There's no you bringing about that sense as a separated you bringing about that sense of existence, able to take it away.
There you
So
go.
this is not about denying your existence or acknowledging your existing. This is not about one or the other, where I claim that, that no one exists or everyone exists. This whatever is happening is free to be whatever it seems to be, or felt to be, or claimed to be, or suggested to be.
Sander, I think
So there's nothing more to it.
I will ask you a favor. I really would like you to think deeply in what you're saying now, but find a way by which you can explain to an idiot like me so I can understand.
Well, I don't ask for your understanding either.
I want to understand.
Yeah, but what is there to say?
Maybe
I mean
nothing.
that need, that maybe there's a need or a sense. Well, when I understand this, then it's all fine. But it's already what it is. This is not about understanding either. I mean, if there is such a thing as understanding, tell me, is there
Hey,
such a thing as understanding to begin with, or is just, is there
maybe
something
some
which we really can understand. Because for that to happen, there needs to be two. There needs to be you and something else which you can understand. But there is no such thing as separation. There isn't a you and a life which you can understand. There's not you. There's no way to understand understanding itself. There's no you apart from the idea that there's understanding, or the feeling that there's understanding, or the concept of understanding, able to understand it.
Why not? That's what I was saying about artificial intelligence. That has been copied, and it's been copied for something which, obviously somebody could copy, and there's copy on the human brain activities.
Well, okay, we can say there is an understanding, but that itself, in its totality, is just simply not understandable whatsoever. There's the illusion of understanding based on the idea or the feeling that there is a you and something separated which you can understand or get or know or hold.
Well, don't you think that actually, if you are, for example, we are now in front of a computer, isn't there, you've got data in your computer, you've got software in your computer, but you are able to exercise and find what you want to do with the computer.
Well, but that,
There is duality there, isn't there?
no, here it's always like just what it is, exercising. There's no additional sense of a me exercising or a me talking. There's just simply the directness, what is happening. So there are words, but there's no additional layer that it's my words or I'm doing the talking or I have a computer. And on one level, you can say, well, yes, Sander, I see you. And there's a computer maybe there. Yeah, that's it. But there's no additional sense in that direction whatsoever. I'm
Thank you,
sorry.
Sander. Thank you, Sylvain. I think we'll move on to Razia now. That was great.
Yeah, also, yeah, that's about it. If we're never going to question and ask for clarification, we're not going to get anywhere. Because basically, we're coming up with a whole lot of concepts, you know. And for me, I think like it's there's a commonality that seemingly runs through the stream. There is consensus about certain things we can agree upon, you know? Like, I mean, if I look at Sylvain, he can agree that he has a nose on his face and I have a nose on my face, you know? You're looking at my face, there we can prove it, you know? So, and then there's also like, we're looking at probability or inference, right? I know that the train comes to my station at 6 o'clock every day. So if someone asks me, is the train there? By inference, I could say, yeah, the train is there, 6 o'clock, you know? So, yeah, so a lot of what we know is by consensus about this and inference. We're making like, we're saying, okay, is this it or not? And then obviously it's experiential. How like the shift, kind of like now when you're shifting, you see, hey, you're looking at the world, it's quite normal, you interacting with it as a persona, you know? And then you shift, and suddenly the world looks so beautiful now, and everything is love, you know? You look like love is pouring out of you, and or is it pouring out of everyone? You don't know. But it's an experiential thing, right? So lots of what we know is based on this kind of like this commonality that that Sylvain can agree on and that Sanders can agree on. So we look for that common thing, like and then try to find out, okay, what's common here now about this whole idea that makes it that we can share, and that when we find that common base, then we are. I don't know. It brings us together, maybe, or makes more sense. And then also what Michael was saying, like every persona is seen differently, right? Uh, like like I see Claire differently. To me, Claire is like a whole different thing. And Claire herself is different. She doesn't see herself the way I see her or the way Michael sees me. We all see each other differently. My idea of what Rowena has changed a bit today. So today I listened to what Rowena had to say, and I said, "Ah, she's different. There's something more there." Now I added it to my story of Rowena. So I have 1,000 different people living in my head, and Claire will have the same people, but they are 1,000 different versions, you know? So, in that way, even when we are interpreting the things that are out there, we all are interpreting it in ways that are so different, you know? And we're assimilating it and making sense of it. So, if Sylvain is going to say it's both, we are this wordless, we are the worded, you know? It makes sense. Why not? To him, it makes sense. So we know that when we say there's a mountain, no mountain, mountain again, we're always going back to the mountain, the existence of it all. And we're saying this is the only place that we do exist. Um, yeah, that's about it. Thanks.
Thanks, Razia. Tony.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to come back to the point, the statement, what should we call it? The affirmation from Sylvain that he exists. Well, Sylvain, you do exist, very much so. You are existence. But Sandra said, oh, that's not continuous. That feeling you exist isn't continuous. But that doesn't matter because the knowledge is there. I mean, Sylvain doesn't have to keep telling himself he exists to know that he exists. I mean, if I asked you, are you a man? You would say yes. But in order to know that you're a man, would you have to keep on repeating, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, so that you don't forget? No, you don't. The knowledge is intrinsically there without having to bring it into the conscious mind. So you know you're a man. So if I suddenly say to you, are you a man? You'll say yes. The knowledge that you're a man is readily available. It's there all the time. It's the same applies to existence. Existence, the fact that you exist, is self-evident. But it isn't necessary to have those affirmations in the mind to know that you exist.
I agree entirely.
Just we've got 15 minutes, everyone, just to make you aware. We've got obviously Michael and Sandy, you guys have got your hands up. And Phyllis, I wanted to say hello. I don't know if you can hear me, but it's lovely that you're here too.
Yeah, hi everybody.
Nice to have you.
I'm tardy. I hope I don't have to go to the principal's office.
No, you're very welcome. Sorry, it's not going to be very long, but I think Michael, you're about to share something. You're on mute.
Mute.
Last night in the dream, I believe I existed. I went through a whole group of dreams, really. I remember a lot of my dreams, but I really believe, or this brain believe I existed. All the people in my dreams seemed real. They weren't, and I wasn't. The same thing applies here. It really feels like I'm here. There is a body. There's an old man's body. And there's a passenger called me that gets to ride it through its life. When the body dies, the sense of I am will evaporate, never to be seen again. Thank goodness. I wouldn't want to live forever. To live forever would be the worst form of hell imaginable. It's been fun. I've had a good life. I've done everything I wanted. No bucket list. No bucket. Sander.
Thank you. Tony, when you say it's self-evident that you exist, I would say this is self-evident. The idea that this is you is just another subtle identification with this so-called stream of happenings to be you. Nothing more, nothing less. It's quite subtle. It's a shift from I am this body to I am the totality. There is no you to be.
I didn't say it was a thought. I didn't say it was a thought.
No, but we can always try to escape it by saying
It's
that.
only a thought when I express it. When I use language, then it
Yes,
sounds
yes.
like a concept. But to know you exist isn't a thought.
Yeah, but there, I understand what you mean. That's why I say this is self-evident. But the addition that this is you, and I don't matter if it's a matter of thoughts. You know, it's a subtle shift from I'm this body to I'm the totality or I'm existence or whatever.
Yeah, but it's not that. I mean, but that's only because you're talking about it and it's being expressed as a concept, and language is dualistic, so it sounds like someone thinks they exist. But you don't need to have a thought to know that you exist. That's why I
Well,
use the
without that
word
thought, there is no
self-evident.
existence.
There's no subject-object relationship in that which is self-evident.
Yes, but you know, when there is no thought going on, there's no such thing as existence. Existence arises only in the innocent naming or the sensation, claiming there to be an existence to begin with. When this is when this dissolves in its own, there's nothing left. I wouldn't say there's even an experience apart from the naming of it. Experience
Well,
only
don't
arises
name it then.
in the naming. There is no actual experience whatsoever. The experience arises only in the painting of it. And this painting of an experience or the lack of that is just totally innocently arising. There's no you behind it whatsoever able to do it or to let
I
it
said
be.
this to I said this to Michael before. Don't name it. Just don't name it.
Yeah, but
And then the
I
problem
mean,
goes away, doesn't it?
yeah, but this gives the idea that there's a you who can do such a thing to not name it. You know, it's I
Yeah,
understand how you
but
mean. I would say,
Sandra, you know very well.
why don't you let
Yeah,
Michael
but
speak?
I was just going to say, Sandra, you know very well that I'm not talking about a personal you.
yeah,
You
but
know that.
yes, but I want to make this clear. I know that you mean that it's impersonal. When you say you exist, you don't mean it as a you, as a personal you, which is everything. But for many people, you is this. This is me. You is synonym for this body, this being here. So it's I think it's maybe clarifying to say what you mean with you as an impersonal.
Michael, you had your hand up.
No need.
Beingness.
When you say it's self-evident, self-evidence would require the presence of a self. That's the mirror. That's the illusion of self. Self is self-evident to itself, I suppose. No, it can't be. Self-evident does not create a substantial reality. Self is not real. Self is a mental fabrication.
It's self-evident unless you magic it away. What you're doing is magicking it away. And then it's not. I mean, that's just the mind again, isn't it? It's just the mind again playing games.
No, it's not the mind.
Self-evident doesn't require any concepts, doesn't require any thinking, doesn't require mind.
Last night in your dream, you thought you were real, but you weren't. It was all a mental
Well,
fabrication.
yeah, well, I guess the difference is that in the waking state, if I leave my keys on the table, they're going to be there the next morning. But if I leave my keys on the table in a room, the keys are going to fly through the window and turn into a seagull.
You live in two worlds, one physically manifested and one totally imaginary. And the brain combines the two and creates a pseudo-reality. There are keys, there are trees, there are mountains in a sense. And then there is this total objectified overlay.
No, Phyllis. No, I disagree.
Mm.
Phyllis just said that self-evident is a thought in the mind. No, I cannot
Well, in
agree
a
with
way,
that.
self-evidence is a concept, right?
It is
It's
if you talk about it.
yes, but that's, you know, in a way that's a misnomer because, you know, what is there besides thought? If you say don't talk about it, then it's this. But you know, the moment you name it, it arises.
Well, without thought, you still remain.
No.
You cease to exist.
Well, I don't, you know, there's no me or, you know, there's no separated me to exist or to not exist. So, I mean, nothing remains and everything remains, but nothing, you know, nothing remains when there's no thought.
You don't need a thought to be, do you? Just to be doesn't require thought.
Yes.
That's what's self-evident. It's the beingness that's self-evident, which
Yeah,
doesn't require any concept or any label or
but for
naming,
you to
nothing
be,
like
there
that.
need to be a thought that you are. If that thought is not there, you are
No,
not.
no, you don't need a thought to know that you are.
Razia has her hand up.
Well, I mean, that argument we can go on. Yeah, I suppose when you do experience this, you kind of see that there's nothing separate, that it's all one, you know. So whatever is expressing is seemingly that one, but we're not even sure of that. But must realize that lots of what we are is our programming. And this is the programming that goes back centuries. And we have been programmed by the Buddhists, by the Hindus and Advaita and everything. And to break free of that programming, that belief systems, it's still there. When we're talking, we can see it coming up like that. So I don't know, like even if I look at the Buddhist thing, it was like, what were you before you were born? What was your face before you were born? That always like comes up in my mind. So we are that programming. And whatever we say is coming from a program. So I don't know. At the end of the day, what can we know? But I'm just so happy that I can be with all of you and talk to all of you. Thanks.
Lovely to have you. We've only got 5 minutes, but Phyllis and Michael, you both have your hand up. I don't know who wanted to go first or who was first. Michael, you're on mute.
Oh, Phyllis, you're on mute.
One of you guys unmute and speak. Let me see if I can. I'll unmute you, Phyllis. So I'll see if I can do it from my side. How's that?
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
How it feels, we can't know anything, but there's feelings come up that something seems to be as so. That I'm not attaching an idea to it. I don't need to be right, or there is no right or wrong. And here in groups like this, there's expression of what's coming up. I'd say for self-evident, it has to be self-evident to someone.
Mm.
Who's there? Can only be the person can only be self-evident to its own reflection.
Mm.
Maybe not only, but what do we use the word self-evident to mean? Obvious, but anything these groups talk about, it is everything is so obvious. What is Tony's book, The Open Secret? It's so obvious that a whole world is built on it to negate it. Cause and effect, you and me, right and wrong, up and down, time and space, black and white, pink and blue, So those are impressions. But if I reach out for a pink, I don't know what, a pink or something, a doll that has a pink dress, that doll can disappear. Just it'll just fizzle. There's no, why would it stay and why would it not stay? Anyway, that's just kind of come up, you know. I reach for something and it goes back into the rabbit hole. So it can't be self-evident.
Phyllis, there's not two. There's not two.
Right. Right. But who's it going to be self-evident to?
Well, it isn't, because there's not two.
Yeah. Okay, maybe it's just wording, but it seems, because as soon as that word self is in there, something in me gets nervous.
Depends what we mean by self, perhaps.
Good.
I'm not talking about a personal self. You understand? I'm talking about a self with a big S.
Yeah. Michael,
Not
we've
the
got
small.
you lead us out, Michael.
Okay. I did hospice work for a long time and had quite a few Alzheimer's patients. When you see a person's memory disappear, the person disappears along with it. The person is the memory. It is the thoughts about self. When the brain starts to come apart, the person comes apart. There never was a person or a self in there. It was all a beautiful mental fabrication, an objectified overlay. It's lovely to be here with everyone. Lovely to see you all, to hear your voices, to look
Thank you,
at your
Michael.
face.
I think it's been a very non-dual conversation this evening, which is great, because that's exactly what I wanted to bring into these conversations. I'm hoping that everyone's caught up who's watching this from a more sort of therapeutic perspective. But I think essentially when we look at things like eating disorders and body image, it all stems down to the same thing, and that's a sort of lack of connection or a sense of separation, at least anyway. So really what these meetings are about is it's all the same thing. We all, as Razi says, there's a sort of playing devil's advocate, because we do sort of go up against a few things, and that's all entertainment. But we all agree with each other, essentially. We all agree that there is nowhere to get. We're not the body, yet there's the apparent existence of the body, and there is apparently places to get. There's apparent improvements that can be made. So I think meetings like this are valuable. You know, we do connect with each other. Words do have an impact. Communication can help. So I really appreciate everyone's input and everyone's time. I think it's incredibly valuable. I'm going to stop the recording now, so we can have a quick chat afterwards if people want to stay, but let me just stop that now. Thank you.